Family has asked us to announce that following this service, interment will take place immediately at Mount Olive Cemetery. The family will then be returning to Temple Emmanuel, where they will be receiving Shiva calls until 4 p.m. today. Tomorrow, they will be receiving calls of condolence from 1 to 4 and 7 to 9 p.m. at their residence. Friends are recommended to make contributions to the Jewish Community Federation of Cleveland, Temple Emmanuel, or the Cleveland Clinic Hospice. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, dayan ha'amet. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, the righteous judge. Adonai natan, Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. The prophet teaches us that God gives but takes away, and through it all we praise God's name. The mysteries of life and death are beyond our understanding. We are perplexed and overwhelmed when pain and anguish befall those whom we love. In sorrow, confronted by Jay's passing, we feel our own frailty. Like morning dew, we glisten for an hour or two and then disappear into a new day. Ro'eh Yisrael, Shepherd of Israel, guide us with love and compassion. Do not abandon us, but draw us closer to you. Grant solace and comfort to those who mourn. May they sustain each other with the blessings of the memories of Jay's life. Jay leaves behind and is missed and mourned by his mother, Suzanne, his wife, Judy, his sister, Amy, and her husband, Stephen, daughters, Rebecca, and her fiancé, Stephen, and of course, Stacy, his cousins, nieces, and nephews, and all of us whose lives were touched by his. Mizmor David, Adonai roi lo echzar, binot teshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinahaleni, nafshi yeshovev yanchileni v'mag le'tzedek l'ma'an shemo. God is our shepherd, we shall not want. God causes us to lie down in green pastures. God leads us beside still waters. God restores our soul and guides us in the right paths for the sake of the divine name. Even when, as at this moment, we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we fear no evil. You, God, are with us. Your rod and staff comfort us. You prepare a table before us, even in the presence of our enemies. You anoint our heads with oil, and our cup overflows. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti beveit Adonai le'orech yamim. Surely goodness and mercy will follow us all of the days of our lives. We will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We learn from Ben Sira. We are all destined to die. We share it with all who ever lived and with all who ever will be. Mourn for the dead, do not hide your grief. Do not restrain your mourning. But remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace. Be consoled when the soul departs. Death is better than a life of pain, and eternal rest is better than constant sickness. Let us not seek to understand what is too difficult for us, nor search for what is beyond us, for we have already been shown far more than we can understand. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our own few days in eternity. The good things in this life last for a very short time, but Jay's memory will live on forever. Shir malot esaynai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. We turn our eyes to the mountains. What is the source of our help? Our help comes from God, who is the maker of heaven and earth. God will neither let our foot give way, nor will the guardian of Israel slumber. For the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is our protection, a shade at our right hand. The sun will not harm us by day, nor the moon by night. Adonai will protect us and guard our lives, and watch over our coming and going, now and forever. Jay was a character. Once you met him, you never forgot him. Everyone loved his fantastic personality. He was kind and caring, even if he didn't always exactly know how to express it. He was a man who loved poetry, mystery novels, music. He played the trumpet, the guitar, the keyboard, the ukulele, and the bongos. And of course, he had that wonderful sense of humor and was always telling jokes and stories. He loved fish restaurants, but he was in general a very adventurous, if not but not necessarily careful eater. Before sushi became popular and well known, he didn't understand what the green stuff, the wasabi, was, and took the whole thing at once. He didn't always differentiate between edamame and snap peas as to whether or not you could eat the shell. Stacy made some mini cupcakes, and Jay did not care to think about taking the paper off. Nevertheless, he tried to express to Stacy how wonderful the cupcakes were. In the meantime, she saw him eating it with the paper and said, Dad, take the paper out, maybe it'll be better. Rebecca's dog, Luca, was on a special diet, as many of us are, but his diet was only raw meat. And so there was some food for Luca in the refrigerator, which Jay thought was goose liver. He thought it was rather funny tasting goose liver, when in reality it was some raw rabbit for the dog. He loved magic and he loved card tricks. He actually taught origami, and he was an irrepressible sports fan. He loved all the Cleveland teams, but his two favorite were the Indians and the Turtles. You are perplexed. The Turtles are Rebecca's fantasy football team, and he followed their exploits as well as the others. He always bought into the March Madness brackets at Emmanuel, and he was so bright, so intelligent. Even in the last week of his life, he beat Stacy at checkers. Jay was always working. He was a great salesman and a good guy. He and Amy were born in South Euclid to Monroe and Suzanne. They moved to Shaker Heights when he was in school, and he graduated from Shaker High School. Jay was always close to his parents. He worked with them in the business, talked with them every day, and even after his parents moved to Florida, he had a daily phone call with his dad to talk about politics, sports, or current events. He was Amy's younger brother, but because of the difference in their heights, Amy was the little sister, if not older. They shared great childhood memories. What could be bad when your parents owned a toy store? They traveled in different circles and had various views of politics. But then when we were kids, there was those family road trips where Amy and Jay shared the back seat of the car, made a clear dividing line down the middle as to whose side was which. But when Jay had both his tonsils and appendix out at the same time, and as a reward, his parents allowed him to fill up a whole shopping cart full of toys. He filled up that shopping cart full of toys, and lo and behold, on the top of the pile was a toy that Amy wanted. Amy remembers her brother as being smart and creative, but very much in his own way. He was a guy who tested limits. If he was interested in a subject, he did well. If he wasn't interested, not so much. Once she remembers that in school they had a project, a poetry project, and we already know Jay loved poetry. It was to identify a poet, research that poet, give an oral presentation, and then a reading of one of that poet's works. Jay was a procrastinator. and time came due for the project to be presented, and he had not prepared it. He made up the poet, he made up the life of the poet, and he even wrote a poem that he presented as the work of this fictitious individual. He was the second of three generations of family to attend the Ohio State University. He loved English, he majored in English, and as you know, he loved poetry. But business was really his interest. His family owned Heights Furniture and Toys, as you know, and Jay was the toy expert. In fact, he was for many years the local television station's expert on toys. And whenever there was a story, particularly, in November, December, about what toys to look out for, they went to Jay Roseman to do the interview. He was featured on 48 Hours when they did a piece about the issues in the toy industry that were being created by the presence of the new big retail chains. And they followed Jay from the store here in Cleveland and through the challenges of Toys R Us opening, and they followed him to New York to the toy show, which he attended almost every year. Jay and Judy met on a blind date that Jay's mom, Suzanne, helped organize. They were engaged in the 1982 Super Bowl, and they have said that if nothing else, Jay gave Judy the 49ers and Joe Montana that year. They were married the following May, had a wonderful marriage, although they made sure not to discuss politics. For Rebecca and Stacy, they were a father who never hollered. Jay was the parent who played with you, who let you pick toys off the shelf in the store, who would be with you through week-long Monopoly marathons, made up games like Bad, which was where Jay and Stacy played two bad children not wanting to go to bed while Rebecca tried to play the mother. He went bike riding with them, would read their favorite books on end, taught them about sports, played a duet with the trumpet with Rebecca. And then there were the trips to East Coast Custard, Baskin-Robbins once a week, eating out at a diner, which was their favorite kind of restaurant. And then, of course, ice cream runs, especially on the 4th of July, so that they could clear out of the house so Judy could prepare for the guests. When Jay owned Heights Recreation, he used to take Rebecca and Stacy with him on deliveries. It is not clear to this day whether he took them on the deliveries just because he wanted the child labor or because they charmed all of the customers. Rebecca's fiancé, Stephen, is the newest addition to the family, and his future father-in-law. He found as a fun guy who we enjoyed talking sports trivia with, and who he and the rest of the family knows will be at the wedding in spirit. Jay was very pleased to see that both of his daughters finished their education and both successful in their chosen professions. And he had that satisfaction. He had COPD for the last 16 years. Was not really able to participate in much in the last 10 years or so. But he kept up with the family, kept up with life as best he could, and now he rests at peace. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of the righteous indeed be a blessing. Please rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen B'Maromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'Malot Kedoshim U'Tohorim, Kezohar HaRakia Mazhirin, Et Nishmat Yaakov Ben Moshe V'Sara, Shehalach LeOlamo, B'Gan Eden Tiyeh Menuchato, Ana Bal HaRachamim, Hastirehu B'Seiter Knafecha L'Olamim, Utzro B'Tzor HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai hu nachlato, v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo, v'nomar. Amen. Exalted and compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of J. Robert, son of Monroe and Suzanne. He is now gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, may he find perfect peace in your sheltering embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. He now rests in peace. And we say, Amen. You may be seated.